have anything like this there. So cool, awesome, use it. Another person said, hey, we have something similar to this CPOC framework. Fantastic. Use it as well. The key is when you get to this point of building value, it really comes down to, it's not the best part. Even kind of sitting through it, it's like we're talking about us and our stuff. So I loved what Craig was doing to keep it going, telling stories, right? So write a few of these things down. Struggle to transformation, right? Struggle to transformation. Story selling. You've got to provide these things and do it in such a way that you're connecting the dots for them. Okay, so that they have, that you're tying it to it. So we're going to hold off the rest of the questions till the end of this. I want to get into really what amounts to, in many ways, the most important topic. Okay, so this is create buy-in. Now, when you're creating buy-in, this is where you're actually closing. Okay, so next week we're going to get into overcoming objections and writing policies. But here's the thing, when you've done this process most effectively, this is where the sale is made, right? The sale is made when you create buy-in, right? So here's how it works. Creating buy-in is really about understanding the measurements of a success that are essential in verifying that the value you've built is quantifiable as well as worth committing to. So write this down. To create buy-in, the prospect must, in his own words, articulate the value worth investing in. Now, I want to share with you, this is not the easiest step. In fact, it's the hardest step. And even more specifically, many of you will skip this step and it's going to bring you back to a different level of selling. Will it be better than how you've sold up until this training? It will. But is this the stuff that changes the game? It absolutely does. So write this down. If you take away anything from this, to create buy-in, the prospect must, in his own words, articulate the value that would make it worth investing in. Okay, so it's also critical that you work on measurements that hold immense value to the client, not just your objectives to get them into these different coverages, to get them into the umbrella. Remember that when the client is under stress, they only have 5 minutes, they're focused on price, they focus on urgent and immediate issues like price, and they're often disconnected from what ultimately matters most. So I'm blocking on the gentleman's name at the beginning of the call that told the Tesla story. That was a great pattern interrupt because that person wasn't focused on that. So we have to get them talking it away from stress, away from urgency to what's most important to them. So your goal in this step is to connect them to the most important and valuable results, right? So they're likely to move away from price and better articulate to you those results that would have a higher impact and greater value to the protection of their family's well-being and their assets. So how does this work specifically? You guys should have your worksheets there in Word. Follow along and fill in these blanks. And again, go to your agents after this and have access to this in real time. What measurements will you use to qualify success? So you're asking them, before we actually write policies, name, what measurements are you going to use to quantify the success of your relationship with us? How will you know that you've achieved these results when we come up for renewal? Right? So we're already preempting retention. How will you know that you've achieved these results when we come to renewal? Right? So you're recording these things. And if you can in eAgent, set up the field, however you want to do it, you want to plug in these answers. These retention calls are so easy when you can articulate them and bring them back to this. Yeah, we've raised our prices by 800, but we come back to these things in their own words. How do these measurements tie to what is most important to your protection of family and assets, right? So Crystal talked about that truck, right? The only thing more painful than having that truck is losing it, right? So how do these measurements tie? not the price of the coverage, but the value and protection tied to the coverage that's going to protect that vehicle, or more importantly, the family in that vehicle. All right? That's what's most important. How will you measure the success of our relationship? Okay, somebody asked a question early on, and they kept going on the side here. You know, Geico's 800. How do you beat that, right? They're in that competitive mindset. We're a relationship. Ask them, how will you measure the success of our relationship now and moving forward? They're like, relationship? I thought I was just buying insurance. But see, by now we've shifted to that. Well, yeah, you're going to be, available. I'm expecting if I can't reach you, I can reach somebody in your office. We're going to do, a package review at X point. Ask them, how will you measure the success of our relationship? Okay. Your questioning is designed to ensure that your client's decision to proceed is connected to value, not price. Right? This is 3 short slides, but the most important stuff potentially of the 4 weeks. Your questioning is designed to ensure that your client's decision to proceed is connected to value, not price. So first and foremost, the practice of asking these questions allows your client and you to quantify the value you can provide in meaningful ways. So quantify the value, not cost, but be able to articulate in meaningful ways the value that we provide. This will also help to establish your reputation for reliability, for delivering significant results. Right now you've told 2, 3, 4 stories at this point and how we've come through for our clients, and most importantly, for providing exceptional value. This is what builds your status and relationship as a trusted advisor. Trusted advisor equals relationship. Okay? We want to focus on being highly effective at generating clarity of value in the minds of our clients rather than being right with our assessment, analysis, and suggestions. All right, so I want you to write this down. Because sometimes another sort of breakthrough or pattern interrupt when we talk about give me some breathing room. Write this one down. Being right is insufficient for being effective. Being right is insufficient for being effective. So if you find that you're in a competitive or defensive relationship with the prospect where you're trying to show or somehow prove that having better question coverage is right, by being right, you're in effect making them wrong. Okay, so being right is ineffective, is insufficient for being effective. All right, let's keep driving. So here's some more questions, right? Your questioning strategy. The quality or the power of your questions creates the quality of their answers. It shifts their focus to what matters most. Now, I'm assuming that we have fully achieved these results. What would that be worth to you? What would be the value? What would that be worth to you when we achieve these results? When we deliver these results, how will this affect you and your family moving forward? It's like, well, I don't understand. What do you mean moving forward? Well, hopefully we never run into any of this, but I'll just say, your kids are grown up and one of them gets into the car and they back it out and hit the next door neighbor. I mean, what will it mean, this coverage that we've just went through the last few minutes and having that? What will that mean? Right? We have to do what's called future proof. We've got to put them in those painful situations. All they're thinking about is the pain and cost, but the real pain happens when these things come up that you guys hear and experience every day. This is where your experience is of most value to them. So that's another Jedi line or money line, if you will. Name, this is where my experience is of most value to you. You and I are on these calls. Yeah, it's about price and your budget, but every day we're handling calls for loss of life, loss of limb, loss of assets. Somebody's life is forever changed because now their income has 20% being taken of it. So this is where my experience is of most value to you. I know you want to focus on price, but I want to make sure I'm protecting you months, years, decades from now. That's our ultimate outcome here at Name Insurance. Okay, what will it cost you if you fail to achieve these results? What will it cost you if you fail to achieve these results? Now you're going back to your Build a Wall worksheet, right? You got to tie it back. Let them say it. They must say it. Remember, it must be articulated in their words. So if they're not saying it, you take them back. Well, I know we've covered a lot of ground, but when we spoke about the gap in this coverage, here's what it would result in. Here's what it would cost you. And that's just the dollar amount. What it's going to cost you emotionally, knowing that you're now actually only going to bring home 80% of what you used to bring home, not the full 100%. How is that going to impact your life? How is that going to impact your family? You got to get to what it's going to cost them, the pain, if they don't achieve this. Going with a lower price competitor with less coverage versus paying for the true risk. That's what I just literally covered there. Is going with that lower price is different than paying for the true risk of not having that coverage. Okay, so tell me, Nate, why is this something you must move forward with? That's the close. Craig, why is this something you must move forward with? So once we've built the value and we've created the buy-in in establishing meaningful measurements of success and the value worth investing in, we've validated that our actions will produce the right results. We've also mutually confirmed. So mutually is bidirectional. They've confirmed and we've confirmed what will provide the greatest benefit, the most value. And now we're ready to move forward with writing policies, which is the best way to deliver on our commitments. So next week is kind of like what happens if you miss this step, right? So this is very hard. It seems very ethereal and out there. But when you ask this, tell me, Name, what is something why is this something you must move forward with? And they can articulate, now we're just ready to move forward. Okay, well, let's go ahead and put these policies together. And it's not even a close, it's an enrollment. Next week, we'll get into where the gaps are, if we've got to overcome objections, or got to get into some older school closing kind of things. Again, this is where the bread and butter happens. The program stops here because now you're writing. You're not closing. You're not doing anything. So tell me, Name, why is this something you must move forward with? So be sure after this call, you go back to your agent and you get access to this. We would love to receive emails from you. I'm a little bit kind of surprised by the number of hands raised that don't actually have access to this. This isn't a training. Come and take notes and go back and take notes on your notes. We've created this so not only do you have an understanding, not only have you learned these skills, but by leveraging Agency Vault in your Sales Vault specifically, you can actually go do and implement these things. All right, awesome. That covers it, Craig. Let's go ahead and open it up. We've got a few minutes here. This is my favorite part: questions, answers, role playing. Let's provide as much value as we can here.
All right, perfect. I'm unmuting everybody that's called in, and taking them off here painfully one by one.
Okay, so I see one question from Lisa asking for the quote. Okay, yeah, write this down. To create buy-in, the prospect must, in his own words, articulate the value worth investing in. So those 6 or 7 questions across those 2 slides, which are not only available in your vault, but this whole recording will be available in its entirety. Or you go to Sales Vault, creating buy-in steps. The script is available there, as well as the deck. This is where you get access to and can implement all that. Gina Marie has a question. Okay, go ahead, Gina Marie.
Hi, how are you?
Great. I'm all fired up. How about you?
Oh, pretty good. Wait, now, when a customer if they leave us or they want to leave for going with a lower price from a competitor, they say if they're actually getting the same coverage.
Great question. So now you're back at you're at renewal, right? So it's kind of what we call a retention call.
Yes.
Okay, great, good question. So they've come back and they've said something to the effect of, well, I've gone ahead and done some price shopping, and I can now get the same coverage from Geico, right? So you want to try and interject a humor interruption, like, name, are you stepping out on our relationship? You've gone out and dated without telling me this is an open relationship? Right? So be funny, right? Do not be defensive. Be funny, Gina Marie, like, John, I'm shocked. We didn't talk about an open relationship. You've gone out and dated that Geico? Make him laugh, like, be funny, right? And then just he'll laugh about it and say, seriously, I want to come back to, because when you and I built a relationship, we covered some things that were really important to you at the same time. So yeah, cost is a part of it, and coverage is a part of it, the protection of your valuable assets. So right now, we've got apples to apples on both the cost and coverage. But we talked about, too, our relationship, right? So tell me, what, if anything, has changed in regards to that, right? So where's that question here?
Brett?
Oh, yeah, sorry. You want to go back to your notes in agents where you've asked, how will you measure the success of our relationship? They say, about 6 months ago, we talked about our relationship. I want to be a trusted advisor to you. I value you as a client versus a transaction. All things being equal, or John, even if you're telling me, Geico's now $800 less and provides the same coverage, I want to understand before we break up, what's most important to you, or what relationship are you getting that you're not getting there? And then this is where it's important, Gina Marie and everybody else, you must have those notes in there. You must be able to go back, because it's 6 months later. Now, honestly, I think this might be the exception, because if you've executed the trusted advisor process well, not only are they not going to come back to you if the price is the same, they're probably not likely to come back to you in that first go-around for anywhere up to $800, $1,000. It's just, it's worth it to stay with you. So I don't want to dismiss this as an exception, but basically when you have this conversation with them, what they're saying is, all things being equal, I just assume not interact with a human, right? I'd rather interact with the call center, and they're not, so they're not ideal clients. That's a great question, though. I don't know if Gina's still on. Go ahead.
It's so important to pivot their thinking, because again, when they're saying I'm getting the same coverage over at X, how specifically is it the same? Well, it's this, 250, 500. I matched apples to apples, right? They're going to say that. You already know they're going to say that, but that's only one piece, right? We went through, when you're building the value, there's several other pieces that aren't part of what the coverages are. So it's important to understand, there's a back end, there's claims. They don't have claim satisfaction guarantee, right? They don't have a number of different things that they're paying for. That's why they have us, right? Somebody will always be cheaper. I've said that many, many, many times, and I know some of the power agents on here. I see Laura Harris is on here. I know she said that before too. We are not the cheapest. In fact, today is the least expensive that your policy is ever going to be. It's not going down. So let's get off that and focus on what is most important. But if we laid the foundation and did all of those previous steps, we're not going to get there. And when we do, we use those techniques. Great question. Thank you.
Awesome. Who else wants to step down? I don't want to call it a hot seat, but remember I was talking about the training with Tony Robbins, and we talked through some of these challenges, right? This all sounds great coming from us. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. You're fired up. Like, this makes so much common sense. But when you go and practice it, it's like, they're not responding to it. When you said it on that slide, it made it so easy. So I'd love to hear from somebody new. Who wants to? You could raise your hand over there, and we'll unmute you, or just if they are unmuted, go ahead and speak up. Are they unmuted, Craig?
There's a lot of background. If I unmute everybody with 200 people.
Okay, can you see where people are? This technology is not my strong suit. questions about this? Any feedback?
I have Andrea Yaruski is unmuted. I have Andrew Hutchins unmuted. Anything from you guys? Brett Bailiu, Brittany Benson, Brittany Parrish. I know Lisa would love to talk. Hand up.
Okay, go ahead. You got your hand up, Lisa? Go ahead. Let's unmute Lisa.
I just unmuted.
Sorry. Do we have any other questions? No. We're good. Thank you.
Okay. All right, well, team, listen. This is awesome. Here's the thing. It might be that there aren't as many questions in the past because, again, this is the hardest one to get over the hump. Okay, so the best of you are going to keep sending us those recordings, asking us to break down the tape. If you're not someone who's sending a recording or sending us questions and you don't have access to Agency Vault, you should be asking yourself, geez, I wonder if these guys are getting a lot more results than I am, and why? Here's why, because they're recording and listening to their calls. Some of you are sending them to us. They're asking us questions. They're printing out those scripts and they have them next to them. Agency Vault, Sales Vault tab is open right next to eAgent. This is just becoming a part of who they are and what they're doing. In terms of getting prepared